The nation continues to see protests and calls to end systematic racism in America. One historian points out why it's strange for an organization like Black Lives Matter to have Marxist roots. NTD's Melina Weiskup brings us more.
As Black Lives Matter protesters come out to support equality and justice, what some may not realize is that beneath the surface, the organization is propped up by a communist ideology. The organization's official pamphlet reads, Communist Party USA. Founder Patrisse Cullors has said in multiple interviews that the leaders of Black Lives Matter are, quote, trained Marxists. But historian Phil Magnus says it's disturbing and strange to see Marxism championing racial equality, since Karl Marx himself, the father of communism, held strikingly racist views.
He has letters that are filled with dozens of examples of he uses the N-word disparagingly, talks about blacks as if they are inferior.
Magnus pointed out a specific example. In a letter to his good friend Frederick Engels, Marx talks in a degrading manner about a man named Ferdinand Lassalle. The sheer gluttony and wanton lechery of this idealist. As the shape of his head and the way his hair grows also testify that he has descended from the Negroes, unless his mother or paternal grandmother interbred with the N-word. And that's just one of multiple examples.
So to see him as kind of repurposed and maybe glossed over and turned into this hero of a movement that genuinely cares about racial equality is disturbing.
And yet the very group that says it's working towards a more racially just America has Marx's communist sickle and hammer behind them, perhaps without awareness of what that symbol indicates, since most of the ideas attached to it seem appealing. But those ideas have never been practiced successfully. History has proven time and time again that successfully practicing communism never eventuated. A notable historical lesson being the Russian Revolution of 1917, which was an uprising by the people to overthrow a disliked Tsar.
But what happened over the course of that revolution is the Leninists, who were the hardcore Marxian faction, the claimed successors to Karl Marx in Lenin's own terms, gradually moved into power, and they started shutting out other groups, including not only conservatives and opposition groups, but other competing socialist factions.
Yet some are still lured in by communism's deceptive ideology.
People here understand communism and what that actually means, and it is not totalitarian, it is not authoritarian.
Perhaps some are not as familiar with the dark side of Marx. Once a devout Christian, Marx then turned against the Creator. In his poem The Fiddler, Marx wrote, "Till hearts bewitch, till senses reel, with Satan I have struck my deal. He chalks the signs, beats time for me, I play the death march fast and free." And even today, the world still sees that horrific bloodbath play out in communist-influenced regimes. In Venezuela, famine is rampant. In China, citizens are brutally persecuted for their faith, and freedom of belief and freedom of expression are forcibly suppressed. Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Now we hear the heartbreaking story of a couple in Hong Kong who refused to stop fighting for freedom even if it cost them their wedding. They were arrested last year during the city's pro-democracy protests and put into jail just 4 days before their wedding.
Henry and Elaine, a couple from Hong Kong, spent 50 hours in jail in July of last year. The incident took place just 4 days before their wedding. Arrested at a pro-democracy protest, the couple were kept in different cells at the police station, separated by a long corridor and a large wall. They were among the first people to be arrested for protesting for their freedom. After they were released, they held their wedding but only expected 4 guests. Henry didn't even invite his family. That's because the couple had received online threats that someone would crash and spoil their wedding and that guests might be bullied online.
Rioting is a very serious charge. We and our friends knew we were targeted by the government once we were charged with rioting. Some of our friends were worried about online bullying after they attended our wedding ceremony, but they still came. It really showcased the love of Hong Kongers.
To their surprise, dozens of family members, friends, and people they hadn't even met before showed up for their special day. Journalists also came and live-streamed the ceremony on social media as if it were a royal wedding, not of 2 people accused of a serious crime. But they still had open charges and were to be tried for rioting, an offense that carries a penalty of up to 10 years in jail. Elaine cried sometimes when talking about the separation she felt was sure to come, and fretted over what would happen to the couple's 3 dogs, who they say are like children to them. Nearly a year after they were first arrested, the Newlyweds were tried on rioting charges. The couple lost 2/3 of their income during that year because of public criticism, but thankfully the judge acquitted them and they were free to go. Elaine says she doesn't regret standing up for what she believes in.
It's my responsibility to speak out for injustice and for the future. When I look back at my life, what made me proud? I really think that even though I was arrested, I am still proud. I don't regret standing up. I am scared of being jailed, but I don't regret it.
Elaine and Henry wept and embraced. Supporters applauded and chanted pro-democracy slogans as the couple walked out of the courthouse. Henry said they would head home immediately to take care of the dogs, while Elaine said they would start to unpack their gym equipment to get back to work.